Welcome, dreamers and storytellers, to another unforgettable journey into the heart of history on Somnus Sagas, where the past awakens with vivid tales of struggle and survival. Today, we step into the mud and shadows of the Renaissance, not the world of gilded palaces or masterful paintings, but the brutal reality of a peasant's life in 1520 Swabia, southern Germany. You are Elias, a man bound to the land, battling hunger, disease, and the iron fist of a feudal lord. This is no tale of grand cathedrals or far-off discoveries. It's an epic saga of toil, loss, and defiance in a world where hope is as scarce as bread. Through your eyes, we'll face the horrors of famine, plague, and war, and feel the spark of rebellion that could change everything, or cost you all you hold dear. So gather by the hearth, let the shadows fade, and step into the crucible of the Renaissance. If you're captivated by stories that breathe life into history's forgotten voices, don't forget to subscribe to Somnus Sagas and hit that bell icon to join our saga weaving community. It is 1520, and you are Elias, a peasant in your late 20s, scraping out a living in a muddy village in Swabia, southern Germany. The Renaissance, with its soaring cathedrals, masterful paintings, and tales of new worlds across the sea, is a faint whisper from cities like Florence, Venice, or Wittenberg. Your world is one of endless toil, gnawing hunger, and ever-present fear, bound to the land and the iron grip of Baron von Helfenstein, whose castle looms over the hills like a vulture. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, animal dung, and the acrid smoke of your hearth. Your life is a relentless struggle, marked by loss, defiance, and a stubborn will to survive. Some peasants, like you, cling to life through grit and hope. Others are crushed by the weight of this unforgiving age. This is your epic, woven with sweat, grief, and the faint promise of a better tomorrow. Each morning, you awake before dawn in the damp chill of your wattle and daub hut, the cold seeping through cracks in the mud-plastered walls. The straw roof leaks, leaving puddles on the earthen floor, and the single room is crowded with your family, your wife, Anna, and your two surviving children, Hans, age 8, and Greta, age 5. Your eldest son, Wilhelm, died 3 winters ago, starved by a merciless famine. His death is a wound that festers, reopening each time you see hunger in your children's eyes. You rise from a straw pallet, shared with Anna for warmth, and stoke the embers in the hearth, your only defense against the biting cold. Wood is scarce. You spent yesterday scavenging branches in the forest, risking a fine from the Baron's men for poaching his timber. The penalty could be a flogging, or worse, the loss of Old Grey, your half-starved ox, whose strength is your lifeline. Breakfast is a grim ritual, a crust of rye bread, hard as stone and blackened from the hearth, soaked in weak ale to soften it, and a watery gruel of barley mixed with wild nettles, dandelion leaves, sorrel, and a pinch of wild garlic you foraged last week. The village stream is fouled with waste, animal dung, human refuse, the occasional dead rat. So you all drink the sour, watery ale Anna brews, safer than water, but barely nourishing. Hans coughs as he eats, his thin frame a mirror of Greta's frailty, her cheeks sunken, her eyes dull, her cough a constant rasp that gnaws at your heart. You worry for them, but there's no time to linger. The fields call, and the Baron's taxes wait for no one. Outside, your village is a cluster of 15 huts, their thatched roofs sagging under the weight of rain and neglect. The fields stretch around you, leased from Baron von Helfenstein, who owns every blade of grass, every tree, every stone. Today, you must plough a patch for barley, repair a fence torn down by stray cattle, and deliver a sack of oats to the Baron's steward, Klaus. Your tools are crude, a wooden plough, heavy and splintered, pulled by old grey, a sickle, its blade dulled from years of cutting, and a hoe, its handle worn smooth by your calloused hands. Your back aches, your joints creak, and though you're young, you feel the weight of decades. The sun rises, casting a pale light over the muddy fields, and you begin your labour, the rhythmic scrape of the plough your only companion. Anna stays behind, tending the small garden where she grows cabbages, turnips, parsnips, leeks, and a few herbs. Thyme, parsley, mint, and chamomile, carefully guarded from rabbits, deer, and the Baron's foraging pigs. She spins wool from your 2 sheep, though the Baron claims half the fleece as his due. Hans helps by gathering kindling, feeding the 3 chickens you keep, or carrying water from the stream, though he must boil it first. Greta, too weak to work, clings to her mother's skirts, her cough a constant worry. The children's gaunt faces haunt you. Every grain you grow is a battle against starvation. Your day is a cycle of relentless toil. You plough until your shoulders burn, the ox's ribs stark beneath its hide. You mend the fence with willow branches, your fingers bleeding from splinters, your hands caked with mud. By noon, you pause to eat a slice of bread smeared with lard, washed down with ale, sitting on a stump under a grey sky. The afternoon is spent weeding the barley, pulling thistles that prick your hands until they bleed. As dusk falls, you trudge to the Baron's granary, a sack of oats slung over your shoulder, your legs heavy as stone. Klaus inspects it with a sneer, his scarred face twisting as he notes every imperfection. Too much chaff, he growls, docking your payment by half. You bite your tongue, knowing defiance could cost you everything, your ox, your hut, even Hans. Back home, Anna has prepared a thin stew of cabbage and onions, thickened with a handful of oats. You eat in silence, the fires flicker, casting shadows on the walls. Hans asks for more, his voice small, but there is none. Greta coughs, and Anna's eyes meet yours, filled with unspoken fear. You tell a story to ease the tension, a tale of a knight who slays a dragon. Learn from your father, but the children's eyes are heavy with hunger. You lie awake, listening to Greta's cough, praying for a harvest that will keep you alive. You are not free. The fields you work, the hut you live in, the very air you breathe belong to Baron von Helfenstein. You are a serf in all but name, bound to his land by laws older than your grandfather, laws written in blood and enforced by steel. Each year, you owe the Baron a third of your harvest. Barley, oats, rye, or the occasional pig you raise with scraps and hope. If you slaughter an animal, he takes half the meat, leaving you with bones and gristle to boil into broth. If Hans were to marry one day, you'd pay a fee for the privilege, and if you die, the Baron claims your best ox as a heriot, a tax on your death. The church demands its own tithe, another tenth of your crop, paid in grain, livestock, or labor, leaving you with scraps to feed your family. Last summer, a hailstorm ruined half your barley, flattening the stalks like a giant's fist. The Baron's men showed no mercy. Your neighbor, Jacob, was beaten bloody for falling short, his groans echoing through the village square as his wife, Marta, wept, her hands clutching her children. The Baron's steward, Klaus, is a cruel man with a scarred face, his left cheek marred by a sword cut from some forgotten war. His whip is always at his side, its crack a sound you know too well. He rides through the village monthly, his horse trampling gardens if payments are late. Last year, he seized your only cow as interest on a debt you couldn't pay, leaving Greta without milk. Her cough began soon after, and you blame Klaus as much as the damp air. You've learned to bow your head to mumble, "Yes, my lord," but rage burns in your gut like a coal, stoked by every injustice. The feudal system is a noose, tightening with every poor harvest, every new tax, every whim of the Baron's court. Your village is a patchwork of suffering. Jacob, a wiry man with a quick laugh, struggles to feed his 3 children, Lucas, Elsa, and little Fritz. Marta, his wife, is gaunt, her hands rough from spinning flax, her eyes shadowed by worry. Karl, an older man with a limp from a fall years ago, lost his wife to fever and now works alone, his fields overgrown with weeds. Old Magda, the wise woman, lives on the village's edge, her hut filled with herbs, bones, and whispers of witchcraft. She's helped deliver babies and heal fevers, but her knowledge makes her suspect. The Baron's castle looms on a hill, its stone walls a symbol of your powerlessness. You've heard tales of its feasts, roast venison, spiced wine, sugar sculptures shaped like swans, while you chew stale bread. The contrast is a bitter pill, swallowed daily with your gruel. Yet change is stirring, carried on the wind like smoke from a distant fire. In the village tavern, a smoky shack lit by tallow candles that smell of rancid fat. You hear whispers of a monk named Martin Luther, his words, printed on presses you've never seen, challenge the church's greed and the Lord's tyranny. The blacksmith's son, Peter, a lanky youth with fiery eyes, learned to read from a wandering scholar who passed through last year. He shares Luther's pamphlets in secret, hiding them under a floorboard to avoid Father Gerhard, the village priest who serves the bishop and the baron. All men are equal before God, Peter reads, his voice trembling with excitement as the tavern falls silent, the air thick with possibility. The words ignite a spark in you, a dangerous hope that a better life might be possible. But hope is a risk. You've seen what happens to those who defy the Baron. Jakob's cousin, Wilhelm, was hanged last year for hiding grain, his body left to rot on a gibbet as crows pecked at his flesh, a warning to all who dream of resistance. The village is divided. Old Magda warns against change, her eyes sharp with fear. The Lord's are God's will, she mutters, clutching a charm of bone and feathers, her voice low as if the walls have ears. Peter, young and bold, dreams of justice, his fist clenched as he speaks of freedom. Anna begs you to stay quiet, her voice breaking as she clutches Greta, whose cough grows worse each day. They'll take everything, Elias, she whispers, her eyes wide with terror. But the hunger in Hans's eyes, the memory of Wilhelm's death, and the weight of Klaus's whip make silence feel like surrender. You're torn, caught between the safety of submission and the allure of a world where your children might live free. Hunger is your oldest enemy, a shadow that never leaves. Its claws sunk deep into your life. The Little Ice Age has cursed the land with cold, wet summers, and crops rot in the fields before they ripen. 2 winters ago, a failed harvest left your village starving. You boiled nettles, tree bark, and even clay to fill your bellies, but it wasn't enough. Wilhelm, your eldest son, wasted away, his eyes hollow as he died in your arms at age 6, his small body light as a bird's. You buried him in the frozen ground, Anna's sobs cutting through the silence like a blade. The memory is a wound that never heals, and you see the same hunger in Greta's thin frame, her cough a constant reminder of her fragility. The fields are unforgiving. Barley and rye are your main crops, planted in strips you share with neighbors under the open field system, a patchwork of labor divided by ancient custom. But pests, locusts, weevils, mice, devour what little grows. Floods drown your seeds in spring, droughts wither them in summer, and early frosts kill them in autumn. Last year, locusts stripped a neighboring village bare, and you heard tales of families eating grass, rats, or even their own shoes to survive. The village elder, Heinrich, tells of a famine in his youth when people ate the dead, a horror you pray never comes again. New crops from across the sea, potatoes and maize, are rumored to grow in the south, brought by explorers like Columbus, whose ships sailed to a new world 30 years ago. But they haven't reached Swabia, and you rely on what you can grow or forage. Cabbages, turnips, parsnips, leeks, wild herbs like sorrel, dandelion, and wild garlic, and the occasional fish from a stream, though the Baron claims the best fishing spots as his own, guarded by his men. Food is rationed carefully, every morsel a treasure. Breakfast is gruel, a grey sludge of barley and herbs, sometimes flavoured with a pinch of salt you traded a basket for. Lunch is a slice of bread smeared with lard or a boiled turnip, eaten in the field to save time. Supper is a thin stew of vegetables, cabbage, onions, perhaps a handful of peas or beans, thickened with a pinch of oats. Meat is a rare luxury, perhaps a strip of salted pork at a festival, or a chicken shared among the village, its bones boiled for broth. Anna preserves what she can, drying herbs in the rafters, pickling cabbages in a clay jar buried under the floor to keep it cool, or salting fish when you're lucky enough to catch one. Winter is a lean time, the month stretching like a desert, the cold gnawing at your bones as hunger gnaws at your stomach. The children's hunger keeps you awake at night, their thin arms a silent accusation. Foraging is a lifeline, but it's dangerous. You teach hands to find edible plants, dandelions for greens, sorrel for tang, wild garlic to flavour stews, mushrooms hidden in the forest's shade. You know where blackberries grow, where hazelnuts fall, but picking them risks the Baron's wrath. His foresters patrol the woods, and trapping a rabbit or gathering firewood can earn you a flogging or a fine you can't pay. Once, you found a beehive and brought home a precious comb of honey, a rare treat that made Hans smile for the first time in months, his eyes bright as he licked the sweetness from his fingers. You hid the comb under your cloak, heart pounding as you passed a forester, his dog sniffing the air. But such moments are fleeting, and hunger always returns, a wolf at your door. The village has seen worse. 3 years ago, a famine killed a dozen souls, including Marta's daughter, Elsa, whose body was so light you could carry her in one arm. You helped dig her grave, the ground hard as iron, your hands blistered from the shovel. Jakob's youngest, Fritz, nearly died, saved only by a merchant who traded grain for a knife you forged in secret, a skill learned from your uncle. You pray for a good harvest, but the sky is fickle, and the Baron takes the best of what you grow. His granaries fat while your children starve. Death is a constant companion, stalking your village like a wolf, its breath cold on your neck. The Black Death, which killed half of Europe 2 centuries ago, is a grim memory passed down in stories. Your grandmother spoke of entire villages wiped out, bodies piled in carts, unburied for lack of hands. Smaller plagues still strike, unpredictable and merciless. Last spring, a fever swept through, claiming 3 children, Lucas's sister, Anna's cousin, and the miller's boy, their bodies wrapped in rags and buried quickly in shallow graves to stop the spread. Greta's cough began then, a dry rasp that worsens each month, her chest heaving as she struggles to breathe. You and Anna pray to Saint Roch, the plague saint, clutching a wooden amulet you carved, a crude cross etched with her name. But faith feels fragile when death is so near. The village wise woman, old Magda, offers remedies, potions of yarrow, mint, chamomile, coltsfoot, or willow bark, but they rarely work. Her hut is a maze of dried herbs, bones, and charms, and she mutters prayers to both saints and older spirits, her eyes sharp with knowledge and fear. She delivered Hans and Greta, her hands steady despite her age, but her knowledge makes her suspect. You've seen plague doctors in nearby towns, their beaked masks stuffed with herbs to ward off miasmas, the bad air blamed for disease. But their cures, bleeding with leeches, purging with bitter tonics, or burning sores with hot irons, are as likely to kill as to heal. You've heard of physicians like Andreas Vesalius, whose books map the human body, cutting open corpses to learn their secrets. But such knowledge is for city folk, not you. Instead, you rely on Magda's herbs and superstition, a sprig of rowan above the door to ward off evil spirits, a prayer to Saint Anthony for Hans's fever, a charm of feathers to protect the crops. Hygiene makes matters worse. Your hut is damp, the straw roof mouldy, the air heavy with the smell of mildew, smoke, and sweat. The village stream is fouled with waste, animal dung, human refuse, the occasional dead rat or fish. Flies swarm in summer, carrying disease from house to house, their buzz a constant drone. You wash rarely, as bathing is thought to open the body to sickness, letting in the miasmas that bring fever. Your teeth ache, some blackened and loose, the pain a dull throb you've learned to ignore. The village shares a single latrine pit, its stench a constant reminder of decay, its edges slick with mud. When Greta's cough turns bloody, you fear consumption, a death sentence for a child so frail. Anna spends nights praying, her rosary worn smooth, her knees bruised from kneeling on the cold floor. But you see despair in her eyes, a mirror of your own. Other illnesses, dysentery, smallpox, tuberculosis, are constant threats. Last year, dysentery struck, leaving Carl's wife dead, her body wasted by days of agony. You helped carry her to the grave, her weight light as a child's. Smallpox scarred half the children in a neighboring village, their faces pitted like the surface of the moon, some blind, others dead. You've lost 2 children before Wilhelm, stillborns, buried in unmarked graves in the forest, their tiny bodies wrapped in Anna's old shawl. Each loss carves a piece from her heart, and you fear for her strength. The village is a graveyard of dreams, its people worn thin by disease and despair. their prayers a desperate plea against an uncaring world. War is a constant menace, its shadow falling across Swabia like a storm, dark and unrelenting. Your village is a crossroads for armies, mercenaries, knights, or the Baron's men, who loot as they pass, their boots trampling your fields, their hands taking what little you have. Last year, a band of soldiers burned a neighboring village, their fires lighting the night sky. They took grain, livestock, and even women, leaving behind screams and ash. Your cow was stolen, leaving Greta without milk, her health fading as hunger tightened its grip. You've learned to hide what little you have, digging pits in the forest under cover of night, marking them with a stone only you recognize, praying the Baron's dogs don't sniff them out. Once, you buried a sack of barley too shallow, and wild boars rooted it up, leaving you with nothing but scattered grains and a fine from Klaus for wasting the Baron's property. The roads are unsafe, plagued by bandits, desperate men driven from their lands by hunger, debt, or the Baron's cruelty. Last month, they stole a sack of turnips from your garden, creeping in under moonlight, their shadows fleeting as ghosts. You heard their footsteps but stayed inside, your knife useless against their numbers. You rarely travel beyond the village, fearing attack or conscription into some lord's army. The memory of a neighboring boy, Fritz, haunts you. He was forced to fight in a feud between lords, returning with a missing arm, begging by the roadside, his eyes empty as a winter sky. You've seen others, men broken by war, limping through the market. Their stories are warning. Soldiers take what they want, and peasants pay the price. The Baron's men are no better than bandits. Their authority a blade held to your throat. Klaus, the steward, rides through the village with a whip, his scarred face twisted with disdain. He demands taxes, grain, livestock, labor, or punishment follows. Last spring, he forced you to repair the castle walls for a week, hauling stones until your hands bled, your back screaming with pain. Your own fields went untended, weeds choking your barley, costing you half your crop. Klaus's sneer is a constant threat. He once struck Hans for spilling grain, leaving a bruise on his cheek that lasted weeks. You wanted to fight back, to drive your knife into Klaus's heart, but Anna's pleading eyes stopped you, her hand on your arm a reminder of what you'd lose. Defiance means death, or worse, losing Hans to the Baron's service, sent to the castle to scrub floors or tend horses, never to return. Rumors of rebellion add to the tension, their whispers spreading like wildfire. Peasants in nearby villages speak of rising against the lords, inspired by Luther's words and a preacher named Thomas Münzer, whose fiery sermons call for justice. They demand an end to serfdom, fair taxes, and the right to hunt in the forests, now barred to you by the Baron's decrees, his gamekeepers patrolling with crossbows. But rebellion is a deadly gamble. You've seen the gibbets. Jakob's cousin, Wilhelm, was hanged for hiding grain, his body swaying in the wind as crows pecked at his flesh. His wife screams a sound you can't forget. The Baron's castle, with its stone walls, moat and armed guards, seems impregnable, a symbol of your powerlessness, its towers piercing the sky like a taunt. By 1524, the whispers of rebellion grow into a roar, fueled by desperation and a spark of hope. In the tavern, lit by flickering candles that cast long shadows on the walls, Peter reads Munzer's sermons. The time has come for the poor to rise. Let the sword of justice smite the wicked. His voice shakes with passion, his eyes burning with a fire you've never seen. The words ignite a blaze in your chest, a dream of a life where Hans and Greta eat their fill, where the Baron's men don't trample your fields, where your labor is your own. Anna begs you to stay out of it, her voice breaking as she clutches Greta, whose cough grows worse each day, a wet rasp that chills you. They'll kill us all, Elias, she whispers, her eyes wide with terror. But the memory of Wilhelm's death, the hunger in Hans's eyes, the weight of Klaus's whip, and the endless taxes make silence feel like surrender. You can't bear it any longer. You join a band of peasants, 50 men and women from your village, armed with pitchforks, scythes, flails, and a few stolen swords from the Baron's armory, taken in a daring raid by Peter and his brothers. The village women, including Marta, join you, their faces set with determination, their hands gripping sickles or staffs. The air is thick with defiance as you march to the Baron's castle, chanting for justice, your heart pounding like a war drum. The castle falls easily, its guards outnumbered and unprepared, fleeing into the night. You storm the granary, seizing sacks of wheat, barley, and oats, the air filled with the scent of grain, a treasure you've never held. You distribute it to starving families, tearing into a loaf of white bread, its softness a revelation after years of rye crusts. You share it with Hans, his eyes wide with wonder at the taste, his fingers sticky with crumbs. The village celebrates, singing songs of freedom around a bonfire, the flames dancing like your hopes, the night alive with laughter and defiance. But the lords are not so easily defeated. In the spring of 1525, a noble army marches on Frankenhausen, where thousands of peasants have gathered under Munzer's banner, his red cross flying high. You're there, clutching a sickle sharpened on a stone, your heart thumping like a drum, your mouth dry with fear. The battle is a massacre. Cannons roar, tearing through your ranks, the air thick with smoke, blood, and the screams of the dying. Knights in steel armor charge, their lances piercing men like paper, their horses trampling the fallen. You see Peter fall, a lance through his chest, his blood soaking the earth, his eyes staring at the sky. Munzer is captured, his head soon displayed on a pike as a warning, his body broken by torture. You flee into the forest, your legs burning, your breath ragged. the screams of your comrades echoing in your ears. You hide among roots and brambles, your heart pounding as you hear the clink of armor, the baying of dogs. Over 5,000 peasants die that day, their bodies left to rot in the fields, a feast for crows and wolves. You stumble back to your village after days of hiding, your clothes torn, your hands trembling, your body weak from hunger and fear. The barons' men have retaliated, burning half the huts to ash, the air thick with smoke and sorrow. Marta weeps over her husband's body, executed for joining the rebellion, his throat cut as an example, his blood staining the earth. Your heart still stands, a miracle, but the cost is heavy. Klaus doubles the taxes, threatening to take Hans as a servant if you falter, his sneer a promise of worse to come. Anna clings to you, her relief mixed with anger, her hands gripping your arms. "Was it worth it?" she whispers, her voice raw with pain. You have no answer, only shame and exhaustion. The rebellion has failed, and the Lord's power is stronger than ever, their swords sharper than your hopes. The rebellion's failure is only the beginning of your sorrows. Greta's cough worsens, her small body racked by fever, her chest heaving with each breath, her eyes dull with pain. You have no money for a physician, and old Magda's herbs, yarrow, mint, chamomile, coltsfoot, lungwort, do nothing, their bitter taste lingering in Greta's mouth. Anna prays endlessly, her rosary worn smooth, her knees bruised from kneeling on the cold floor, her whispers to the Virgin Mary a desperate plea. The church offers little comfort. Father Gerhard demands tithes even as you bury your dead. One night, Greta grows still, her breath fading like a candle snuffed out, her hand cold in yours. You and Anna bury her beside Wilhelm, carving another cross into the frozen earth. Your hands numb from cold and grief, your heart a hollow shell. The loss is a stone in your chest, crushing your breath. Anna barely speaks, her eyes hollow, her hands trembling as she spins wool to keep her mind from breaking. The village is a graveyard of dreams. Marta's son, Lucas, dies of dysentery, his body bloated and pale, his mother's wails echoing through the night, a sound that haunts your sleep. Karl, another neighbor, is crippled by a beating from the Baron's men, his leg twisted and useless, his fields left to weeds, his spirit broken. Disease and hunger claim lives as surely as swords. You've heard of new medical knowledge in the cities, men like Vesalius dissecting bodies to learn their secrets, mapping veins and bones, but such advances are meaningless here. You rely on superstition, a sprig of rowan above the door, a charm of feathers from Magda, a prayer to Saint Anthony for lost hope. When a cow dies, some villagers whisper of witchcraft, and old Magda's name is spoken with fear, her hut now avoided by all but the desperate. You've heard of Neuter Weinot, witch hunts, in nearby towns, where women are burned for imagined crimes, cursing crops, sickening children, or souring milk. It chills you to think Anna could be accused, her quiet strength mistaken for something sinister. The grief is a shared burden. You sit with Marta by her fire, listening as she speaks of her husband, her voice breaking, her hands twisting a rag. Jakob, once quick to laugh, is now sullen, his spirit dimmed by his cousin's execution and Lucas's death. Karl, begging by the church, is a ghost of the man he was, his eyes empty, his hands trembling as he holds out a bowl for alms. The village children, once lively, are quiet, their games replaced by chores and hunger. You hold hands close, his small body warm against yours, and vow to protect him, though you know the world offers no promises. You carve a wooden horse for him, its lines crude but heartfelt, hoping to spark a smile. He clutches it, his fingers tracing the wood, but his eyes are old beyond his years. Anna is the heart of your family, her resilience a quiet fire that keeps you going. She rises before you, tending the hearth, brewing ale and preparing gruel, her hands moving with a grace born of necessity. Her garden is a lifeline, its cabbages, turnips, parsnips, leeks, and herbs keeping you alive through lean winters. She spins wool into thread, her fingers deft despite calluses, and mends your tattered clothes with scraps of linen, her needle flashing in the firelight. She weaves baskets from willow, trades them for grain, and dries herbs for Magda's remedies, her knowledge of plants a secret pride. But her life is no easier than yours. She labors from dawn to dusk, her body worn from childbirth and hunger. She bore Wilhelm, Greta, Hans, and 2 stillborns, their tiny graves unmarked in the forest, each loss a scar on her soul, a weight she carries in silence. Anna's faith is stronger than yours, her prayers a constant rhythm. She clings to the Virgin Mary, whispering rosaries for Greta's soul, her fingers tracing the beads as tears fall. But the Reformation's ideas unsettle her. Luther's words challenge the church she's known all her life, the saints she's prayed to since childhood. When you joined the rebellion, she begged you to stay, fearing for your life and Hans's future. "What will we do if you're gone?" she asked, her voice trembling, her hands clutching your shirt. Now, with Greta gone, she carries a silent grief, her smiles rare but precious, like sunlight through storm clouds. She sings to Hans at night, old ballads of love and loss, her voice soft but steady, a thread of hope in the darkness. You marvel at her strength, though you see the cracks. Her hands shake when she thinks you're not looking. Her eyes linger on the cross where Greta lies. The village women lean on each other, a sisterhood forged in hardship. Marta shares her flax, and Anna helps her card it into thread, their hands working in rhythm. Old Magda teaches the women to make salves, her voice low as she shows them how to crush yarrow or steep mint. But her knowledge makes her a target, and the women, are wary, knowing a single accusation could doom them. You've heard of witch hunts in nearby towns, of women burned for cursing crops or sickening children. Anna is careful, avoiding Magda in public, though she seeks her herbs in secret, slipping into her hut at dusk with a basket of eggs as payment. You see fear in her eyes, knowing her quiet strength could be mistaken for something sinister. Her resilience is your anchor, but you fear the day it breaks. Superstition is woven into your life, a shield against an uncertain world, its threads as vital as the crops you grow. Old Magda's charms, a horseshoe above the door, a sprig of rowan, a muttered spell, promise protection from disease, bad harvests, or evil spirits. You carve amulets for hands, simple crosses or animals etched in wood, believing they ward off harm. When a storm destroys your fence, some villagers blame Magda, whispering of curses, their eyes darting to her hut. You don't believe it, but fear keeps you silent. Witch hunts are spreading, and you've heard of women burned in nearby towns, their screams haunting your dreams. Magda's hut, filled with dried herbs, bones, and feathers, is both a refuge and a danger. She helped deliver Hans and Greta, her hand steady despite her age, but her knowledge makes her suspect, a target for fear and blame. The church offers another anchor, though its comfort is tainted by greed. You attend Mass, praying for Greta's soul and Hans's future. The Latin words, a mystery you don't understand. Father Gerhard, the old priest, preached obedience, demanding tithes even when you starved. His sermons a litany of submission. But a new priest, Father Johann, a follower of Luther, speaks of a God who values the poor, not just the rich. His words stir hope, but also danger. His sermons draw the baron's suspicion, and you've seen spies in the village, watching the congregation, their cloaks hiding daggers. The Reformation splits the village. Some cling to Catholic rituals, the saints and relics they've known. Others embrace Luther's ideas, whispered in secret meetings behind the mill. You're torn, wanting justice, but fearing the cost. Your prayers a mix of old and new. Superstition and faith blur together, a tapestry of fear and hope. You bury a coin under your doorstep for luck, tie a red thread around Hans's wrist to ward off fever, and pray to Saint Anthony when a tool goes missing. When a cow dies, its udder dry. Some villagers blame Magda, and you see fear in Anna's eyes as gossip turns to accusations. You've heard of trials where women are tortured, forced to confess to impossible crimes, cursing crops, summoning storms, consorting with demons. You warn Anna to avoid Magda, though you rely on her herbs for Hans's cough, a secret you keep even from Jakob. The village is a tinderbox, its fears ready to ignite. Despite the hardships, your village is a community bound by shared struggle, its bonds fragile but unbroken. Harvest festivals, though rare, bring moments of joy, a brief respite from toil. You play a wooden flute, a skill learned from your father, its notes high and clear, weaving through the night. The children clap as Anna sings a ballad about a hero who slays a dragon, her voice weaving hope into the darkness. The village gathers around a bonfire, sharing a roasted pig. The Baron allows one slaughter a year, a grudging gift to keep you from rebellion. You dance, your feet stomping the earth, Hans laughing as he joins you, his small hand in yours. These moments are fleeting, but they remind you why you endure, why you rise each dawn. The village is a fragile web of alliances. You help Jakob with his harvest, cutting his barley while he repairs your fence, your hands working in rhythm. Marta shares her flax, and Anna helps her spin it, their laughter a rare sound. Karl, despite his limp, brings firewood when he can, his gruff voice hiding a kind heart. Old Magda, though shunned by some, shares her herbs, teaching the women to make salves for cuts or fevers. But tensions simmer. Jakob accuses Karl of stealing kindling, a charge that sparks a shouting match in the square. Marta shuns Magda, fearing her curses, her eyes darting away when Magda passes. The Reformation's ideas, spread through Peter's pamphlets, deepen the divide. Some cling to the old church, their rosaries a comfort. Others whisper of Luther's God, meeting in secret to read his words. You're caught in the middle, wanting change but fearing its price, your heart torn between hope and caution. The children are the village's heart, their laughter a flicker of light. Hans learns to carve sticks into arrows, dreaming of being a hunter. Though the Baron's forests are forbidden, his gamekeepers quick with their whips. Other children play games, tag, knucklebones, hide and seek. But hunger dulls their laughter, their eyes old beyond their years. You teach Hans to fish, showing him how to set a trap in the stream with a net woven from reeds, though you must hide the catch from the Baron's men, who claim every trout as their lords. These small acts of defiance keep your spirit alive, a spark in the darkness. The seasons shape your life, a cycle of labor and prayer. Spring is for planting, your hands in the soil, your hopes pinned on rain. Summer is for weeding, your back bent under the sun, your skin burned red. Autumn is for harvest, a race against frost, your sickle flashing as you cut barley. Winter is for survival, your family huddled by the fire, your breath visible in the cold. You repair tools, mend clothes, and tell stories to keep the children warm. Their eyes wide as you speak of nights and far-off lands. These rituals are your anchor, binding you to the land and each other. The Renaissance transforms the cities, but you see only its shadows, faint and fleeting. In Florence, artists like Michelangelo carve statues that rival the gods, their marble gleaming in palaces you'll never see. In Wittenberg, Luther's words spark a religious revolution. printed on presses that churn out books faster than a scribe's hand, spreading ideas of equality and justice. Across the sea, explorers like Columbus and Vasco da Gama bring gold, spices, and strange crops, potatoes, maize, tomatoes, making merchants rich in ports you'll never visit. But these are tales told by traveling peddlers, their wagons creaking with goods you can't afford. Their stories as fantastical as dragons. Your world is the plough, the harvest, and the fear of Klaus's whip. Yet, change creeps closer, its ripples touching even your village. Peter reads of new ideas in smoky taverns, his voice hushed to avoid spies, his pamphlets hidden under floorboards. A merchant, passing through with a cart of cloth and iron, speaks of potatoes, a crop that grows in poor soil, unlike your finicky barley. He tells of printing presses in Augsburg, machines that turn words into weapons, spreading Luther's ideas like wildfire. The Reformation weakens the Church's grip, and some lords, fearing more rebellions, ease their demands, offering a day's rest or a smaller tithe. You hear of towns where peasants become craftsmen, blacksmiths, weavers, printers, free from the land's chains, their hands shaping metal or cloth instead of mud. You dream of Hans escaping to such a place, perhaps as a printer's apprentice, his hands stained with ink instead of earth. The Renaissance's glories are a distant star, its light barely reaching your village. You've heard of Leonardo da Vinci, a man who paints angels and dreams of flying machines, his sketches of wings and wheels a marvel you can't imagine. Closer to home, Father Johann's sermons hint at a new order, a world where the poor are not forgotten, where God's word is read by all. You wonder if Hans might one day read the Bible himself, a dream unthinkable a generation ago, when books were for priests and lords. The merchant speaks of new worlds, of lands where gold flows like water, where men sail across oceans to find riches. You listen, your heart stirring, but your hands remain tied to the plough, your feet rooted in Swabia's mud. By 1526, you're still alive, a survivor in a world that devours the weak. The harvest is better this year, thanks to a milder summer, and you trade a sack of barley for a chicken, a bolt of coarse cloth, a small iron pot, a pair of leather shoes for Hans, and a woolen shawl for Anna. Hans, now 9, is growing taller, his eyes bright with curiosity, his hands quick with a knife as he carves wood. Father Johann teaches him to read a few words: Hallelujah, bread, God hope, planting a seed of possibility in his young mind. You carve wooden toys for him, a horse, a knight, a small boat, their lines crude but heartfelt, hoping to spark dreams beyond the fields. At night, you tell him stories of explorers sailing to new worlds, of Columbus finding lands where gold flows like water, of Vasco da Gama navigating seas to bring spices that smell of distant shores. You know these places are beyond your reach, but you weave the tales to keep Hans's spirit alive, to give him something to dream of. Anna begins to heal, though grief lingers in her silence, her eyes shadowed by the loss of Wilhelm and Greta. She spins wool with renewed vigor, her fingers deft despite calluses, and sings softly to Hans, her voice a balm for his fears. She plants more seeds in the garden, her hand steady as she sows hope alongside turnips. You build a new fence, stronger this time, with oak instead of willow, and plant more barley, praying for a good harvest. The Baron's grip remains, but Klaus is less harsh, perhaps wary of another uprising, his whip coiled at his side instead of raised. Father Johann's sermons, filled with Luther's ideas, spread hope, speaking of a world where the poor are not forgotten, where God's word is for all. You cling to this hope, though it feels as fragile as a spider's web, easily torn by a storm. Some peasants endure, like you, through grit and luck, their lives a testament to stubborn will. Others do not. Jakob was hanged for hiding grain, his body a grim warning on the village square. His wife Martha screams a sound you can't forget. Martha fled to a town, seeking work as a servant, but died of fever, her body buried in a pauper's grave, her children scattered to beg or serve. Karl, crippled by Klaus's men, begs by the church, his spirit broken, his hands trembling as he holds out a bowl for alms. Old Magda disappears one night, her hut burned, whispers of witchcraft following her like smoke. Some say she fled to the forest, others that she was taken to a town for trial, her fate a mystery you fear to unravel. Your village is quieter now, its dreams tempered but not extinguished. You teach Hans to carve wood, to fish, to mend nets, to hide grain from Klaus's prying eyes. You show him how to sharpen a sickle, how to set a trap in the stream, how to read the sky for rain. These skills are your legacy, a bridge to a future you may not see. You pray Hans will escape the plough, perhaps finding a trade in a town. Blacksmith, weaver, printer, his hands free of the earth's weight. You dream of him reading books, writing his name, living a life where hunger is a memory, not a shadow. Hans is your hope, the spark that keeps you going. At 9, he's small but wiry, his hands quick with a knife as he carves sticks into arrows or animals, his eyes bright with dreams of being a hunter, a knight, or a sailor. You teach him what you know, how to fish, how to mend a fence, how to hide from the Baron's men, but you also teach him to dream. Father Johanna's lessons are a gift. His words, hallelujah, bread, God, hope, etched in Hans's mind like runes. You watch him trace letters in the dirt, his fingers clumsy but eager, and your heart swells with pride and fear. Knowledge is power, but also danger. Literate peasants are suspect, their minds a threat to lords and priests. Hans plays with the village children, their games a flicker of joy in a grim world. They chase each other through the fields, play knucklebones with sheep bones, or build forts from sticks, pretending to be knights or explorers. But hunger dulls their laughter, their eyes old beyond their years. You see Wilhelm in Hans's face, Greta in his cough, and you vow to protect him, though the world offers no promises. You tell him stories by the fire, tales of Columbus sailing to new worlds, of knights fighting for honor, of a future where he might be free. He listens, his eyes wide, clutching the wooden horse you carved, its mane etched with care. You pray he'll escape this life, but you fear the cost. Towns are far, and the road is dangerous. Your life is a testament to resilience, a saga written in sweat, blood, and tears. The Renaissance's glories, paintings by Michelangelo, discoveries by Columbus, ideas of Luther, belong to others, but your struggle is no less epic. You faced hunger, disease, war, and loss, yet you stand, a survivor in a brutal age. The world is shifting, new crops, new ideas, new possibilities. But change is slow, and you may not live to see its fruits. Hans, however, might. You teach him to read, to carve, to dream of a world beyond the Baron's shadow. Perhaps he'll become a craftsman, a clerk, or a printer, his hands shaping a future you can only imagine. Your village is a microcosm of the Renaissance's contradictions, a time of rebirth for some, but a crucible for others. The Baron's castle still looms, but its power feels less certain, its walls less impregnable. Father Johann's sermons, Peter's pamphlets, the whispers of new crops, potatoes, maize, hint at a world in flux. You've lost Wilhelm, Greta, and countless neighbors, Jakob, Marta, Karl, Magda. But you've gained a stubborn hope, a refusal to break. Your story is one of endurance, a thread in the tapestry of history, woven alongside the grander tales of kings, artists, and explorers. You are Elias, a peasant who carried hope through a world of horrors, a man who survived when others fell. Each dawn, you rise, plough in hand, your eyes fixed on the horizon, where a new day, perhaps a new world, awaits. You walk the fields, your boots sinking in the mud, your heart heavy but unbroken, your life a testament to the strength of those who toil in the shadows. And so, Elias, your epic saga of survival in the harsh world of the Renaissance draws to a close, but its echoes linger in the heart. You faced hunger, disease, war, and loss, yet your stubborn hope, a flicker in the darkness, carries you forward, a testament to the resilience of those who toiled in history's shadows. The Renaissance was a time of rebirth for some, but for you, it was a crucible, forging strength from suffering, courage from despair. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the mud and fire of 1520s Swabia on Somnus Sagas. If this tale of grit, defiance, and survival stirred your soul. Please subscribe to Somnus Sagas and hit that bell icon to stay with us for more stories that awaken the past. Share your thoughts in the comments. How would you endure as Elias? What trials would you face? Until next time, keep weaving dreams and sagas with us and let history's untold stories live on.